Welcome to Nightly Knowledge, and welcome to the second episode of the new chapter in our series Sleep to Success. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, because each episode is designed to not just help you fall asleep, but to unlock wisdom that could change the way you think about wealth and success. Tonight, we're traveling far back in time. We're going to uncover ancient secrets, the kind of wisdom that was passed down in whispers among kings, merchants, and philosophers. Secrets no one tells you, but once you hear them, you'll realize they were the foundations of fortune all along. These aren't tricks. They aren't flashy shortcuts. They are the ancient rules of wealth that have quietly shaped the world for centuries. And tonight, as you drift deeper into rest, your mind will absorb them like seeds planted in rich soil. Seeds that may one day grow into the wealth and success you've always wanted. The first ancient secret is patience. In every great civilization, from the deserts of Arabia to the bustling markets of Rome, patience was seen as a form of currency. The merchant who rushed his goods to market was often undercut, forced to sell cheap, and left with almost nothing. But the merchant who waited, who chose the right time, who studied the flow of trade, who understood that wealth builds slowly, became rich. Ancient traders believed that wealth was like the seasons. You don't demand the harvest before it's ready. You plant, you water, you care for the field, and only then do you reap. Those who mastered this rhythm were the ones who built dynasties. The same is true today. If you expect instant riches, you're gambling. But if you allow patience to guide you, you begin to see opportunities others miss. The second ancient secret is balance. The Egyptians had a word for it, ma'at, the principle of harmony. To them, wealth was never just gold. It was health, strength, wisdom, and peace. A rich man who had no balance was considered poor, no matter how much gold he stored. Think of this when you consider your own success. If you chase money without balance, you'll exhaust yourself, you'll burn out. But when you balance your wealth with health, relationships, and peace of mind, you become untouchable. The ancients knew that true fortune was not measured in coins, but in the harmony of life itself. The third ancient secret is knowledge. In Greece, philosophers were often wealthier than kings. Why? Because their knowledge built systems, strategies, and new ways of seeing the world. Knowledge is wealth that never leaves you. Ancient rulers paid fortunes for teachers, scholars, and books because they knew that one idea could change everything. And so the wealthy invested not just in goods, but in wisdom. That's why the ancient libraries were treasures guarded like gold. Today, the principle hasn't changed. Knowledge compounds. Each book you read, each skill you learn, each piece of wisdom you absorb, adds to your invisible fortune. And in time, that invisible fortune becomes very visible. The fourth ancient secret is discipline. The samurai of Japan were not only warriors, they were models of self-control. Their wealth was not in coins, but in their ability to master themselves. The same was true of merchants across the Silk Road, who had to endure long journeys, resist temptation, and hold steady when storms threatened their caravans. Discipline is the difference between knowing what to do and actually doing it. Ancient. Wisdom taught that a man without discipline was like a ship without a rudder, destined to drift and crash. But with discipline, even the smallest boat could sail across vast oceans. In wealth, the lesson is clear. Discipline builds habits, habits build fortune. The fifth ancient secret is legacy. Dynasties rose because they thought in centuries, not days. The kings of old built monuments, roads, and cities that lasted long after they were gone. They invested in the future, not just the present. To think in legacy is to think beyond yourself. It's to ask, how will my actions today echo tomorrow? Ancient rulers knew that a man who only thinks of his own lifetime dies poor no matter how much he owns. but one who builds for generations is rich forever. These 5 secrets, patience, balance, knowledge, discipline, and legacy, are threads woven through every successful empire in history. And as you listen, as you let your mind rest, they begin to weave into your own subconscious. You don't need to force them, just let them settle. Your mind, even while you sleep, will hold on to them. And over time, you'll notice how they change the way you think, the way you act, and the way you build. So as you breathe deeper and your body sinks into comfort, know this. The ancients have already given you the blueprint. The wealth you seek has been built before. The wisdom is already here. All you have to do is accept it, let it guide you, and let patience do the rest. Because the greatest secret of all is this: success doesn't come from chasing. It comes from aligning with the timeless rules that built kings, merchants, and legends. And tonight, you've heard those rules. Let them echo in your mind as sleep carries you closer to success. In the ancient world, wealth was never only about gold or silver. It was about reputation, wisdom, and the way one lived. In the desert markets of Arabia, merchants whispered the name of a man called Alim, a trader who began with almost nothing but a camel and a sack of dates. Unlike others who chased quick profits through tricks and lies, Alim built his fortune on trust. He never tampered with weights, never diluted his spices, and never broke his promises. At first, his rivals laughed at him. They thought honesty was weakness. But years later, caravans chose to follow him because they knew their treasures were safe in his hands. His simple principle transformed into immense wealth. Money comes and goes, but trust multiplies. Those who listened to his story understood the real secret. When people trust you, doors open that no amount of gold could ever unlock. Further east, in the courts of Persia, kings understood another secret. Wealth must grow beyond the present moment. A wise advisor once told the great King Cyrus, "Gold locked away in chests is dead, but gold placed in the hands of farmers and builders is alive." The Persians invested their wealth in roads, irrigation, and trade routes. These investments did not make them rich overnight, but they created empires that thrived for centuries. Their caravans carried silk, gems, and ideas across thousands of miles. While enemies wasted their treasures on fleeting pleasures, the Persians built systems that outlived them all. Their lesson is simple but timeless. Spend your wealth on what multiplies, not what disappears. Travel north and we reach the bustling streets of Babylon, a city of immense wealth where palaces and temples touched the skies. But hidden behind, the grandeur was a simple secret, told in the story of a man named Arkad, once a poor scribe. Arkad realized that every coin he earned slipped through his fingers until he began to follow one rule: always save at least a tenth of your income. He lived by it until his purse grew heavy. With his savings, he invested in ventures that brought him steady returns. Over time, Arkad transformed from poverty into one of the richest men of Babylon. His wisdom spread through clay tablets that have survived to this day. Pay yourself first. Even the smallest habit, practiced with discipline, becomes the seed of great fortune. And then there were the Chinese scholars and merchants who understood the hidden connection between time and wealth. In their writings, they compared money to bamboo. Bamboo grows slowly in its first years, hidden beneath the soil, but when the time comes it shoots upward with unstoppable force. The scholars taught that fortune works the same way. Small, patient investments in learning, in trade, in relationships, all appear quiet at first. Then, like bamboo, they multiply suddenly, astonishing those who thought nothing was happening. Their ancient secret is that patience is not waiting. Patience is preparing. On the Mediterranean shores, the Phoenicians became masters of trade, spreading across the seas in ships that carried glass, dyes, and precious metals. Their secret was not the cargo they carried, but the knowledge they collected. In every port, they listened, learned, and adapted. They knew that knowledge was the rarest treasure of all, because it could not be stolen once it entered the mind. The Phoenicians proved that the wisest investment was always education, for knowledge created wealth in any market, under any ruler, in any age. Centuries later in the Roman Empire, wealth was often seen as the power to build and to endure. Roman generals returned from conquest with spoils of war, but the families that grew truly rich were not the warriors, they were the builders. They laid aqueducts, roads, and arenas, projects that generated income for generations. They understood the secret of legacy. If your wealth dies with you, it was never true wealth. Real prosperity lives on in the systems, structures, and values you leave behind. The pattern is clear across civilizations. Wealth is not found in chasing illusions of quick riches. It comes from principles that repeat through time: trust, patience, discipline, knowledge, and legacy. These secrets are rarely told because they sound too simple. People want magic formulas, shortcuts, or hidden treasures. But the real treasure lies in these eternal truths. The merchant who earns trust will always outlast the one who cheats. The saver who pays himself first will always surpass the one who spends everything. The investor who plants his wealth in systems and skills will always grow richer than the one who wastes it on fleeting pleasures. Think of wealth as a river. Some try to drink it dry in one night and are left thirsty forever. The wise understand that the river must be guided, channeled, and respected. When they care for it, the river grows wider, feeding not only themselves but their children and their children's children. This is why ancient rulers built not just palaces, but canals, schools, and marketplaces. They knew that true success is not measured in days or weeks, but in decades and centuries. The secrets no one tells you are not complicated. They are hidden in plain sight, written in the stones of pyramids, carved into clay tablets, and whispered in the stories of merchants and kings. Save a part of everything you earn. Invest in what multiplies. Protect your reputation, for it is worth more than gold. Seek knowledge, for it is the only treasure that grows when you share it. And above all, think beyond yourself, for wealth that serves only you will vanish with you, but wealth that serves others will echo through time. In the crowded markets of Mesopotamia, traders once gathered under the watchful eyes of towering ziggurats. There lived a man named Dumuzi, a humble potter who shaped clay jars by hand. His skill was admired, but skill alone did not make him wealthy. What set him apart was a lesson he learned from an elder. Never depend on one stream of income. The elder told him a river that has only one branch dries quickly, but a river with many streams never runs empty. Dumuzi listened. He sold pots, yes, but he also began trading grains, lending out jars for storage, and even teaching apprentices who paid him small fees. Slowly, his streams grew. By the time he was old, he was not just a potter. He was a man of many rivers. His secret spread through Babylon. Wealth is never safe in one place. Diversify and your fortune will survive storms. In India, among the ancient Vedic texts, wealth was seen not only as material, but as Artha. Wise teachers explained that wealth should be pursued, but always with balance and purpose. A story tells of a prince who inherited a vast treasure, but wasted it on pleasures of the senses. His wealth vanished, and so did his kingdom. Another prince, guided by sages, used his wealth to plant orchards to support craftsmen and to fund schools of learning. His treasury grew smaller at first, but then his land produced abundance. His people grew loyal, his markets thrived, and his dynasty endured long after he was gone. The lesson from the East was clear. Money without purpose rots like fruit left in the sun, but money guided by purpose multiplies like seeds in fertile soil. Far away in China, during the time of Confucius, another principle took root. Wealth is sustained by harmony. Confucius did not chase riches himself, but his disciples observed how families and clans preserved wealth for centuries. The rule was simple: unity. Families that fought among themselves lost everything. Families that stayed united multiplied their riches. Wealth built on harmony endured storms, wars, and dynastic changes. A Chinese proverb still echoes the wisdom: a family in harmony will prosper in everything. For those who understood the real treasure was not only gold or land, but strong relationships, trust, and cooperation. In Africa, across the great city of Timbuktu, caravans of gold and salt made kings, richer than imagination. But one story stands out: the story of a merchant named Musa. He was said to have traveled across deserts with camels, so heavily laden with gold that the sand itself seemed to sparkle. Yet Musa knew a secret: displaying wealth too carelessly was dangerous. On one journey he distributed so much gold that the markets collapsed from oversupply. He learned then that wealth is like fire, powerful but destructive when uncontrolled. From then on, he spent his treasure building mosques, supporting scholars, and funding libraries that became the pride of Africa. His fortune lasted not because of how much gold he had, but because of how he directed it. His story reminds us: control your wealth or it will control you. From the frozen lands of the Vikings came another kind of wisdom. Viking raiders often returned with treasure from distant shores. But the wealthiest among them were not the fiercest warriors, but the settlers who built farms, trade posts, and towns. One chieftain, Harold, grew rich not by raiding, but by turning every victory into a trade network. He invested in ships that sailed not for plunder but for commerce. When others fought, Harold's coffers grew silently. His lesson was clear: while others seek quick riches through violence, the lasting wealth belongs to the builders. Even in chaotic times, the true winners are those who create rather than destroy. Across the ocean, among the ancient Mayans, wealth was measured not only in gold, but in knowledge of time. They studied the stars, predicted harvests, and managed resources with precision. A story is told of a priest who warned his people of a drought and advised them to save grain while the skies were still full of rain. Many ignored him, and when the drought came, their stores were empty. But those who listened survived and even prospered by selling their surplus at high value. The hidden lesson was clear: foresight is one of the greatest forms of wealth. The ability to prepare before the storm is what separates survival from ruin. In the land of the Incas, high in the Andes Mountains, wealth was stored not in coins, but in the collective labor of the people. Roads and terraces were built with thousands of hands working together. An Inca leader once said that gold and silver are the sweat of the sun and the tears of the moon, but true wealth is the strength of the community. When disaster struck, when harvests failed or earthquakes shook the land, the Inca system ensured no one starved because resources were shared. Their secret was solidarity. Alone, even the richest man can be destroyed. Together, a community can endure anything. In the ancient city of Carthage, merchants ruled instead of kings. Their fleets carried goods across the Mediterranean. But their greatest wealth came from one principle: risk management. Carthaginian traders learned to spread their cargo across many ships, so that if storms or pirates struck, they would never lose everything. This practice became so effective that it laid the foundation for what we know today as insurance. Their lesson was simple: do not gamble your fortune on a single throw of the dice. Protect yourself. Spread your risks. The wise know that safety is the silent partner of wealth. Among the Hebrews, wealth carried yet another layer of wisdom. Ancient teachings warned against greed and emphasized fairness in trade. Stories tell of farmers leaving part of their fields unharvested so the poor could gather food. This practice did not make them poorer. Instead, it built trust and blessings in their communities. Their secret was generosity. A fortune that never gives back becomes a prison. but a fortune that helps others becomes a shield and a source of joy. The wealth that serves only you dies with you. The wealth that serves many becomes immortal. As we move closer to the classical world, we find the Stoic philosophers of Rome. They taught that riches are external, but the control of desires is internal. Seneca, one of the richest men of Rome, often reminded his students that the man who needs nothing is truly rich. His wealth was vast, but his calm mind was greater. The secret the Stoics offered was detachment. To master wealth, you must not be enslaved by it. Money is a tool. It serves you only when you remember it is not your master. From Greece, another wisdom emerges. The story of Midas warns against unchecked greed. The king wished that everything he touched would turn to gold. At first he rejoiced, but soon his food became gold, his drink became gold, and even his daughter turned into a statue of lifeless metal. Midas discovered too late that riches without wisdom become a curse. The Greeks passed this tale down as a reminder. Wealth should serve life, not replace it. The real secret is moderation. Enough is a fortune, too much can destroy you. In the deserts of Arabia, poets sang of caravans that crossed endless dunes. One tale spoke of a man who spent all his wealth on fine tents, perfumes, and feasts for strangers. For a time he was admired, but when hardship came, his wealth was gone, and so were his friends. Another man invested in wells along the trade routes. Travelers blessed his name. Merchants paid him for water. Generations later, his descendants were still wealthy. The desert whispered its own secret. Build things that last. The beauty of today fades with the wind. The value you create remains for centuries. From all these lands and all these times, one truth repeats. Wealth is not chance. It is not luck. It is not a hidden treasure waiting under a stone. It is a pattern. Save part of what you earn. Invest in what multiplies. Protect yourself from risk. Build trust. Share with others. Live with balance. Think beyond the moment. These secrets are simple, yet they are the very principles that built empires and legacies that still echo through history. In Ni, the shadow of the pyramids of Egypt, there lived scribes and priests who guarded knowledge as the greatest form of wealth. Pharaohs were buried with gold, but the true power of Egypt was not in treasure chambers. It was in writing numbers and records on papyrus scrolls. One scribe named Khepri told his student that wealth can vanish in floods or wars, but knowledge multiplies even when shared. Grain stored in a warehouse can rot, but knowledge of irrigation and planting multiplies harvests forever. This was the secret of the Nile. Invest not only in possessions, but in skills and wisdom. They can never be stolen, and they never decay. Across the Red Sea in the land of Ethiopia, kings ruled from stone palaces carved into mountains. One ruler, known as Lalibela, dreamed of making his city an eternal center of faith and trade. Instead of hoarding gold, he ordered the carving of churches directly into solid rock. It took years of labor, but the structures still stand after centuries while the treasures of his rivals turned to dust. His wisdom was simple. Build in stone, not in sand. Wealth that is only silver or jewels fades with time. Wealth built in legacy and foundations endures across generations. In Persia, merchants carried spices, silk, and jewels along the Silk Road. Their caravans were long and their profits high. But Persian wisdom whispered that the true fortune of a merchant was not the cargo but his reputation. One story tells of a trader who cheated his partners and sold false goods. His gain was quick, but his name was ruined, and no one traded with him again. Another trader was known for honesty. Even when he lost money, his partners returned to him again and again. In time, his fortune grew far beyond that of the cheater. The Persian secret was clear. Reputation is wealth. Lose your name, and you lose your fortune. Protect your name more carefully than your gold. In Japan centuries ago, samurai ruled by the code of Bushido. Though their wealth was not measured only in gold, they believed that honor and discipline created prosperity. A tale is told of a samurai who refused bribes even when poor. His loyalty was rewarded by his lord with land and status, greater than those who chased quick rewards. The samurai understood that integrity is a seed that grows slowly but surely. The dishonest man may shine today, but the honest man is remembered and rewarded tomorrow. In the lands of Arabia, another story spread through caravans. A merchant named Rashid kept two chests, one filled with gold, the other filled with lessons written on parchment. When his son grew of age, Rashid gave him not the gold, but the lessons. The son complained, "What use are words when others have treasure?" But in time he used those lessons to build caravans larger than his father's and fortunes greater than kings. The moral was clear. Wisdom creates wealth, but wealth without wisdom fades away. In the empire of Mali, another lesson was passed from elders to young men. Gold and salt passed through the markets of Timbuktu, but the old ones said that true riches were in people. They told the story of a man who owned hundreds of camels, but treated his workers with cruelty. When enemies came, his workers abandoned him, and his wealth was taken. Another man owned little, but treated his people well. When trouble came, they protected him and multiplied his fortune. The African secret was clear. Treat people as treasure. When you value them, they make you rich. When you abuse them, they take everything from you. In the streets of ancient Athens, philosophers argued about life and wealth. One man, Diogenes, lived in a barrel with almost nothing. When asked why he owned so little, he answered that wealth is not having many possessions, but needing few. Others laughed at him, but his freedom was his fortune. Across the city, another man invested in ships' farms and olive presses. His fortune grew vast, but he always remembered the balance of needs and desires. The Greek wisdom combined both views. A rich man is poor if his desires never end. A man with enough is already wealthy. In the mountains of China, Taoist sages spoke of the flow of life called the Tao. They said that money is like water. If it is blocked, it stagnates and stinks. If it flows freely, it nourishes fields and life. A wealthy man once hoarded coins in a cellar. He never used them and never shared them. When thieves came, they took it all and he was left with nothing. Another man invested in gardens, wells, and schools. His wealth flowed, and generations benefited. The Taoist secret was that wealth must move. Keep it locked away and it dies. Let it circulate and it multiplies. On the islands of Polynesia, chiefs measured wealth not in coins but in influence and generosity. A chief named Kalani would host great feasts, giving food to his people and visitors. Outsiders thought he was wasting his wealth. But when storms destroyed harvests, his people gave back to him double. His name spread across islands as a great leader. The lesson was clear. The more you give, the more you gain. Hoarding isolates. Generosity connects and multiplies. In the kingdoms of Europe during the Middle Ages, wealth was tied to land. But wise rulers learned that knowledge of trade brought more gold than castles. One ruler invested in guilds, teaching blacksmiths, weavers, and merchants. His enemies mocked him for spending money on common men. Yet his markets filled with goods, his towns thrived, and his armies grew rich from taxes. The other kings with tall castles but empty markets soon begged him for loans. His secret was that skills and productivity create wealth greater than treasures locked in vaults. The Aztecs of Mexico built a city on a lake. Tenochtitlan was filled with markets larger than any in Europe at the time. Their wealth was measured not only in gold, but in organization. Every trader had a place, every rule was enforced, and corruption was punished quickly. One story tells of a corrupt judge who tried to cheat merchants. He was exposed and punished by the emperor himself. The message was clear. Without justice, markets collapse. With fairness, prosperity thrives. The Aztec secret was structure and order. Chaos destroys wealth. Discipline multiplies it. In the highlands of Scotland, clans survived on harsh land. Wealth was measured in cattle, but the wisest chiefs were those who settled disputes fairly. When a clan was divided, they became weak and lost cattle to enemies. When a clan was united, they became powerful and rich. Their wisdom was unity. Divide, and you lose. Unite, and you multiply. From the deserts of Mongolia, warriors on horseback built an empire that stretched across continents. Genghis Khan is remembered for conquest, but one of his greatest secrets of wealth was communication. He created a system of riders who carried messages across the empire faster than anyone in history. Merchants thrived because information flowed quickly. His enemies were rich in treasure but poor in information. His empire lasted because he understood that knowledge moves faster than gold. The secret was speed. In wealth and in life, those who move fast with good information rise above the rest. In the jungles of South America, the tribes measured wealth in harmony with nature. A story tells of a chief who cut too many trees to build a great hall. The forest spirits grew angry. The rivers dried and his people suffered. Another chief took only what was needed and planted trees for everyone he cut. His people lived in abundance. Their wisdom was sustainability. Take too much and you destroy yourself. Balance creates endless wealth from all corners of the earth. Ancient voices echo the same truths. Wealth is not only gold or silver. It is wisdom, discipline, unity, reputation, generosity, and foresight. The empires that rose and the empires that fell leave behind a map. Follow it, and you avoid the mistakes of greed, arrogance, and short-sightedness. Ignore it, and you repeat the downfall of kings who thought their treasure was eternal. In the deserts of Mesopotamia, long before great cities rose, there lived tribes who watched the stars. They believed that the heavens were a book filled with secrets. One wise man noticed that when the rivers swelled after certain stars appeared, harvests would follow. His tribe prospered because they planned not by luck, but by observation. And the lesson passed down for generations was simple. The rich man does not wait for luck. He studies patterns and prepares before others even notice. Success is not fortune, it is foresight. In ancient India, merchants traveled with caravans of elephants and carts heavy with spices. They faced dangers of bandits, storms, and sickness. The wisest merchants shared a rule: never place all goods on one path. Always divide the caravan. If one group fell, the other would survive. Many fortunes were saved by this wisdom. This became known as the rule of diversification. To place everything in one place is to invite disaster. To spread risk is to invite security. Modern minds still repeat this truth. Do not place all in one basket. In the markets of Babylon stories, spread of a man who earned gold, yet was always poor. His friends asked why his fortune vanished. He admitted that every coin slipped away to pleasures and debts. Another man saved a single coin from every 10. At first it seemed small, but year after year his wealth grew until he became one of the richest in Babylon. The moral was spoken like a law. Pay yourself first. Wealth begins not when you earn, but when you keep. The Babylonians understood that riches are not in what you make, but in what you keep and multiply. On the shores of the Mediterranean, sailors risked storms to bring grain and wine across seas. One captain grew rich not because he avoided storms, but because he prepared his ships with extra sails and supplies. While others sank, he survived. His name was respected in every harbor. His secret was preparation. Wealth is not built on smooth seas, it is built on the storms you survive. In the deserts of Arabia, poets sang of the value of generosity. One poem tells of a man who slaughtered his last camel to feed a guest. Word of his generosity spread so wide that travelers from far away brought him gifts. Soon he was richer than before. The Arabs believed that the open hand receives more than the closed fist. Generosity creates circles of return. What you give comes back multiplied. The Romans built aqueducts that carried water for miles. These structures fed cities, armies, and markets. The rulers understood that wealth is not only in possession, but in infrastructure. By building systems that lasted, they secured prosperity for generations. A rich man might feast for a night, but a wise ruler who built aqueducts fed millions for centuries. The Roman secret was systems. Build structures that work even when you sleep. In the lands of China, merchants valued a principle known as guanxi. It was the network of trust, respect, and relationships. A man with gold but no relationships was vulnerable. A man with many allies, even if poor, could build fortune quickly. One tale tells of a trader who helped another during hardship. Years later, that man returned the favor with opportunities that made him rich. The secret was relationships. Wealth flows fastest where trust flows deepest. In the frozen lands of the Vikings, warriors and farmers measured wealth in silver and cattle. Yet the wisest leaders were those who shared spoils fairly among their men. A greedy chief who kept treasure for himself was soon abandoned. A generous leader was followed into every battle. The Viking wisdom was that loyalty is bought not with fear, but with fairness. A man with loyal allies is wealthier than a man with gold alone. In the temples of Egypt, priests spoke of mat. It meant balance and order. They believed that without balance even great wealth would collapse. A farmer who took too much from his land without letting it rest would see his soil turn to dust. A merchant who raised prices unfairly would face rebellion. Mat taught that balance creates lasting fortune. To take endlessly is to invite ruin. In the city of Carthage, merchants ruled more than kings. They understood that the sea was both danger and opportunity. They built fleets and trained navigators. One merchant recorded every coastline, every wind, and every harbor in secret scrolls. These maps gave Carthage an advantage for centuries. His secret was knowledge. Information hidden from others is the sharpest weapon in wealth. Those who know the path before others profit the most. In the jungles of Africa, tribes measured time, not with clocks but with seasons. One elder taught that planting before the rains meant abundance, while waiting too late meant famine. His wisdom was patience. Prepare before the moment arrives. The fool waits for the rain before planting. The wise prepare fields early. Wealth rewards patience. In the courts of China, an emperor asked his advisor what the greatest treasure was. Gold, the advisor replied, fades. Armies fall, but character endures. An emperor with character gains the loyalty of his people and the respect of his enemies. The emperor ruled long and peacefully, remembered as one of the greatest. The secret was clear. Wealth begins in character. Without it, fortune turns to ashes. In the castles of medieval Europe, knights swore oaths of loyalty. Many betrayed those oaths for quick gain. But the knights who held their word even when costly were rewarded with lands, wives, and legacies that lasted for centuries. Honor was their coin. The secret was that promises kept bring fortunes unseen. Promises broken destroy fortunes already earned. In the markets of the Ottoman Empire, merchants gathered from 3 continents. Competition was fierce. One man sold silk at low price to attract crowds. But he also offered tea and hospitality. Buyers stayed longer, spent more, and returned again. His rivals with better silk but poor manners faded away. His secret was experience. People do not only buy goods, they buy the feeling that comes with them. Wealth grows where people feel valued. Among the Incas of South America, Farmers carved terraces into steep mountains. Outsiders wondered why they worked so hard, but the Incas knew that soil erodes quickly. By building terraces, they preserved harvests for generations. The secret was foresight. Invest effort today to prevent loss tomorrow. Small steps of preparation create mountains of wealth. In the libraries of Alexandria, scrolls from every land were collected. Kings came to read and scholars traveled far. The rulers understood that knowledge itself was wealth greater than armies. When the library burned, the world lost treasures beyond measure. The lesson remained: protect knowledge as you protect gold. In time, knowledge will create more wealth than treasure ever could. In Arabia again, another story tells of a merchant named Tariq. He bought rare gems but did not sell them quickly. Instead, he studied markets, waiting for the right moment. When scarcity came, he sold at immense profit. His secret was timing. To act too fast or too slow is ruin. To act at the right time is fortune. In the forests of Europe, peasants cut wood to warm their families. One man cut endlessly until his land was bare. Another cut sparingly and planted new trees. Years later, one was poor and cold. The other rich in wood and trade. The secret was renewal. Do not consume faster than you replace. True wealth is sustainable. From every empire, from every tribe and every people, the whispers repeat the same truths. Wealth does not favor the lazy, nor the reckless. It favors the disciplined, the patient, the wise, and the generous. Gold may shine for a season, but wisdom shines for eternity. In the lands of Mesopotamia, where rivers shaped kingdoms, there was a story of a farmer named Enlil. Every year he set aside part of his harvest, not only to feed his family, but also to trade for tools and animals. His neighbors mocked him for living simply while they feasted. But when drought struck, his neighbors starved while Enlil prospered. He had stored grain and built relationships with traders who trusted him. The secret was discipline. Do not consume. All today. Save for tomorrow, and tomorrow will reward you. In the great city of Nineveh, traders sold jewels and metals from far lands. One trader became rich by a principle unknown to most. He always bought goods that others ignored. While rivals fought over gold, he purchased iron. When war came, iron became more valuable than gold. His fortune multiplied. The lesson was foresight. True wealth comes not from chasing what everyone desires, but from seeing what others overlook. In the valleys of China, a humble scholar studied bamboo scrolls. His peers chased government positions and quick rewards, but he kept learning mathematics and astronomy. Years later, an emperor called for someone who could predict floods. The scholar stepped forward. His knowledge saved thousands of lives, and he was rewarded with land and titles. His secret was preparation. When opportunity knocks, it is too late to prepare. Learn before the moment arrives. In the deserts of Arabia, another tale was told of a merchant who carried perfumes and silk. His competitors rushed to sell their goods the moment they arrived at market. He did not. He studied the crowd. He waited until supply was gone, then offered his goods at higher price. His fortune grew with patience. The secret was timing. To act quickly without thought may bring small gain. To wait for the right moment brings great wealth. In ancient Greece, philosophers debated the meaning of prosperity. One merchant explained that every coin he earned was divided into 4. 1 part for family, 1 part for business, 1 part for saving, and 1 part for giving. His wealth grew steady while others rose and fell like waves. The Greeks called it balance. True fortune is not only in having much, but in distributing it wisely. On the steppes of Mongolia, nomads lived in tents and moved with seasons. Their wealth was measured in herds. A wise chief taught his sons that wealth on the move must be protected by loyalty, not walls. He treated his warriors with fairness and shared spoils equally. When other chiefs faced betrayal, he stood strong with loyal men. His secret was trust. Wealth guarded by loyalty lasts longer than wealth guarded by fear. In the temples of India, monks taught that desires without limit destroy even kings. A story tells of a ruler who conquered lands but never felt satisfied. He taxed heavily and built endless palaces. In the end, his people revolted and his empire fell. Another ruler lived with moderation and invested in irrigation canals. His people prospered, and his dynasty lasted generations. The Indian wisdom was contentment. The man who rules his desires rules his wealth. In the islands of Greece, sailors told of Odysseus who through cleverness returned home with treasures, while stronger men perished. His lesson was intelligence over brute force. Wealth is not always gained by strength, but by strategy. The clever. Man builds fortune while the reckless man wastes it. In the bustling streets of Cairo, markets overflowed with goods. One merchant rose above others because he understood presentation. He polished his brass until it shined brighter than gold. His stall was always clean. Buyers trusted him more and paid higher prices. His secret was perception. Wealth is not only in what you sell, but how you present it. Appearances create trust, and trust creates fortune. In Persia, astronomers studied stars while rulers fought wars. One king asked why he should value such men. The astronomer answered that a kingdom without knowledge is like a traveler without map. The king listened. His kingdom prospered by planting crops at the right seasons and preparing for floods. His rivals, rich in soldiers but poor in knowledge, starved. The Persian secret was wisdom before strength. Knowledge creates wealth that armies cannot. In the icy lands of the north, hunters stored furs for winter. One man sold all in autumn for quick silver. Another kept part for midwinter when scarcity made them priceless. The second man grew richer. His wisdom was patience and foresight. Wealth comes to those who think beyond the present moment. In the city of Rome, senators boasted of wealth in villas and slaves. But one senator invested in roads. At first, he was mocked for wasting fortune. But when trade flourished, his tolls made him richer than all. The Roman secret was infrastructure. Build what others use, and you will grow rich while you rest. In the mountains of Tibet, monks carved wisdom into stones. Travelers carried their words across valleys. They taught that true wealth is not only possessions, but peace of mind. A restless man with gold is poor. A calm man with enough is rich. The secret was harmony. The mind shapes wealth more than the hand. In Africa, along the Niger River, fishermen worked together. One man tried to fish alone, keeping all for himself. His nets broke and his catches spoiled. Another worked with others, sharing the river. They caught more than enough and sold the surplus. His fortune grew. Their wisdom was cooperation. Alone, a man is limited. Together, men build abundance. In Japan, farmers learned that rice fields must be tended carefully. One farmer rushed his planting to finish early. Another planted with care, even if slower. At harvest, the careful farmer doubled his yield. The secret was quality. Fast work may look successful, but true wealth comes from careful work that endures. In the cities of Byzantium, merchants thrived by recording every trade. One merchant kept no records and often forgot his debts. Another kept scrolls of every coin earned and spent. He grew rich because he saw clearly what others ignored. The secret was accounting. Know where every coin goes. Control what you measure. Wealth hides in numbers. In the Mayan lands, priests studied calendars and cycles. They knew when rains would come and when to plant maize. Their society thrived because they understood time. Others guessed and suffered famine. Their secret was timing, guided by knowledge. Fortune favors the one who measures before acting. The markets of Venice ships brought treasures from the east. One merchant grew wealthy, not because he had more ships, but because he insured them. Even when storms sank some, he always recovered. His rivals without protection lost everything. His secret was protection. Guard against loss, and wealth grows safely. From every land the secrets repeat. Wealth is built by patience, foresight, wisdom, discipline, trust, and generosity. Those who chase quick riches without principles fall. Those who follow timeless truths rise slowly but last forever. In the ancient city of Carthage, merchants ruled the seas. Their ships carried silver, ivory, and purple dye. One young merchant was told by his father, never trust only one port. He listened and built trade posts across many harbors. When war destroyed one city, his fortune continued to flow from others. His rivals who placed all hope in one harbor went bankrupt. The secret was expansion. Do not tie your wealth to a single place. Spread your roots across many soils. In Greece, philosophers gathered in the agora. One of them explained that wealth is not in the possession of gold, but in the ability to multiply it. A student asked how to multiply gold. The philosopher answered, invest in men with skill. He gave money to a craftsman who built tools. The craftsman repaid him with profit. The student saw the power of investing not in things but in people. The lesson was clear. Wealth grows fastest when invested in talent and skill. In Rome, a baker learned another lesson. He sold bread every day, but profits were small. One day he bought a small mill and ground his own flour. He no longer depended on others. His costs fell and his fortune grew. His secret was control. The man who owns the source controls the market. Depend on others, and your fortune is fragile. Own the foundation and wealth becomes strong. In India, stories tell of Chanakya, a strategist who taught kings that hidden wealth is stronger than visible wealth. Gold displayed invites thieves. Gold invested in knowledge, in alliances, and in systems remains safe. One king followed his wisdom and created secret treasuries across many villages. When his palace was attacked, his hidden wealth rebuilt his kingdom. The lesson was security. Protect wealth by placing it where danger cannot reach. On the coast of Phoenicia, sailors used purple dye that came from shells. It was rare and costly. One merchant understood its power and bought shells in bulk long before others noticed. When kings demanded purple robes, he alone controlled supply. He became richer than lords. The wisdom was scarcity. Control something rare and demand will chase you. In China, a farmer planted mulberry trees while others planted rice. People laughed, but when silk became prized by emperors, his family controlled the silk worms. His dynasty grew wealthy for centuries. His secret was vision. The man who plants for 10 years gains food. The man who plants for 100 years gains fortune. In Arabia, caravans moved across deserts with spices and perfumes. A young merchant noticed that many camels grew weak on the journey. He invested in training caretakers and built wells along the route. His caravan survived while others perished. His wealth rose not by selling more, but by protecting what he already carried. The wisdom was preservation. Protect what you have before chasing more. In Africa, along the Nile, scribes recorded every harvest. One farmer trusted memory and forgot debts. Another trusted records and knew exactly what was owed. He planned his planting and repaid on time. His family grew respected and wealthy. The hidden power was order. Wealth grows when life is organized. Chaos destroys fortune. In Japan, a swordsmith became renowned, not because he made many swords, but because he made few of unmatched quality. Samurai traveled from far lands to pay him triple the usual price. His secret was excellence. Wealth built on the best lasts longer than wealth built on the cheap. Quality multiplies value. In Greece, a merchant explained another rule: never eat from the seed. He meant that the money used to grow more money should never be consumed. He lived modestly but invested every coin back into trade ships. Years later, his fleet dominated seas. His rivals, who spent profits on luxuries, remained small. The secret was reinvestment. Protect the seed and your field will grow forever. Among the Vikings, traders learned that silver could be hidden, but reputation could not. A man known for honesty was trusted everywhere. He traded with fewer guards and paid less in bribes. His fortune grew faster than men who cheated and had to buy protection. His lesson was reputation. A good name is greater wealth than a chest of gold. In Persia, wise men told kings to look not at treasures, but at the flow of wealth. One king hoarded gold and locked it in vaults. Another circulated coins through trade and construction. His kingdom thrived while the hoarder faced famine. The secret was circulation. Wealth must flow like water, or it will rot like stagnant pools. In the Americas, long before ships from Europe arrived, tribes built wealth in cocoa beans, feathers, and stones. One chief gained influence not by conquering but by sharing. He distributed wealth during feasts. His people repaid him with loyalty and labor. His power lasted beyond his life. The wisdom was generosity. Giving strategically creates more return than keeping everything. In Athens, a ship owner taught a young apprentice that storms will always come. Ships sink, markets crash, rulers change. He said, build always with disaster in mind. For every ship he owned, he set aside money for loss. When storms struck, he alone remained standing. His rivals disappeared. The secret was preparation. Wealth survives by expecting storms, not by ignoring them. In India, another lesson was written. A poor man borrowed often and lived beyond means. Another poor man saved little by little and used savings to buy a cow. From the cow came milk, then butter, then trade. He rose slowly but surely. The wisdom was compounding. Small growth repeated many times creates great fortune. In China, emperors valued jade more than gold. But one merchant knew that the greatest value was in information. He paid travelers for news of prices in distant markets. By the time rivals arrived, he already bought cheap and sold high. His secret was intelligence. Knowledge travels faster than goods. The man who knows first becomes the richest. In Rome, an architect built aqueducts not for beauty, but for necessity. People paid gladly for water. While palaces crumbled, his aqueducts remained useful for centuries. The wisdom was utility. Build what people always need, and fortune will never fade. In Africa, among the Mali Empire, kings grew rich from gold, but their true treasure was control of trade routes. They taxed every caravan and grew richer than all. Their secret was systems. Do not only chase treasure, own the roads to treasure, and wealth will come to you. In China, a family taught their children not only farming, but also writing and arithmetic. While neighbors remained peasants, their family entered government trade and scholarship. Generations later, their descendants ruled estates. The secret was education. Wealth kept only in coins dies with the holder. Wealth planted in knowledge lives for centuries. Again and again the message repeats across time and lands. Wealth is not luck. It is not mere gold. It is vision, patience, order, trust, reputation, and knowledge. Those who live by these principles shape fortune like clay and make it endure beyond their own lives. In Egypt, scribes taught that wealth is built not only by gold, but by records. They carved symbols into papyrus and knew exactly how much grain filled the storehouses. Kings trusted them more than generals. One scribe became powerful because he knew where every sack of wheat was stored. When famine struck, he guided the king to hidden reserves and was rewarded with land and titles. His secret was clarity. To master wealth, you must master numbers. Without numbers, fortune becomes fog. With numbers, fortune becomes clear as daylight. In Babylon, traders spoke of a man who never argued over prices in the market. Instead, he studied patterns. He noticed that grain was always cheapest after harvest and most expensive in the months before new crops. He bought when others sold and sold when others begged to buy. His wealth grew like a river in flood. The wisdom was cycles. Everything in life moves in circles. The man who sees the circle before others becomes rich. In Greece, a craftsman explained to his sons that wealth is not only what you build, but also what you protect. He built his home on strong stone, while others built on weak ground. When storms came, their houses collapsed while his stood. He rented space to them and grew wealthy. His lesson was foundation. Build your fortune on solid ground, not shifting sand. In India, a sage told the story of two men. One spent his life chasing pearls across oceans, but returned empty-handed. The other stayed in his village planting fruit trees each season. After many years, his orchards produced endless harvests. Travelers bought his fruit, and he grew richer than the pearl hunter. The wisdom was consistency. Wealth is rarely found in sudden fortune. It is grown in repeated action over many seasons. In Rome, a senator taught his children never to waste mornings. He said that the first hours of the day shape fortune. He used early hours to plan accounts, to meet allies, to write letters. His rivals slept late and rushed in chaos. He died wealthy while they struggled. The secret was discipline of time. Wealth is not only what you do, but when you do it. In China, silk merchants told of a man who always treated customers kindly even when cheated. People laughed at his patience, but soon everyone came to him because they trusted his fairness. His rivals grew rich quickly, but collapsed under dishonor. He endured for decades. His secret was character. Fortune may come to the clever, but only character keeps it. In Africa, among the Ashanti kings, wealth was stored not only in gold, but in symbols of unity. The golden stool represented the soul of the people. One king guarded it above treasure. Because his people trusted his protection of their spirit, they obeyed and worked for him. His fortune was safe because it rested not only on coins, but on loyalty. The hidden wisdom was identity. Wealth tied to purpose becomes unshakable. In the frozen north, hunters traded furs. One man always took only what was needed and left animals to multiply. Another hunted endlessly. At first the second man grew rich, but soon his lands were empty. The first man grew richer over time because he preserved the source. His secret was sustainability. Kill the source and wealth dies. Protect the source and fortune lives forever. In the lands of Persia, kings built gardens known as pairidesa. These gardens were symbols of order in a chaotic world. One wise man explained to a prince that wealth is like a garden. Without design, weeds take over. With structure, beauty and abundance grow. The prince applied this to his finances. He organized every part into savings, trade, charity and defense. His wealth grew like a blooming garden. The secret was design. Fortune must be arranged with purpose. In Greece, a philosopher said that poverty is not only lack of coin, but lack of control. A man who spends without thought is poorer than a beggar. A man who spends with wisdom is richer than kings. His lesson was mastery. Control yourself and you will control your fortune. Fail to control yourself, and fortune will control you. In India, merchants carried spices across seas. One man invested not only in ships, but also in relationships with local rulers. When storms sank, ships others lost everything. But rulers protected his goods and restored his trade. His secret was alliance. True wealth does not stand alone. It is guarded by networks of trust and friendship. In Mesopotamia, clay tablets record loans made with interest. One lender always charged fair rates. Borrowers repaid gladly and returned to him. Another charged high rates. His borrowers failed, and he was left with enemies, not friends. The fair lender grew richer. The secret was fairness. Exploiting others destroys fortune. Helping others grow makes fortune grow with them. In Japan, a farmer taught his son that rice grows only when water flows evenly. If water pools too much, the crop rots. If water dries, the crop dies. He explained that wealth is the same. Too much, hoarded destroys. Too much spent destroys. The balance of flow brings life. The son remembered and became a wise steward of land. His fortune lasted generations. In Greece, merchants told tales of men who borrowed heavily to appear rich. They bought fine clothes and threw feasts, but their debts crushed them. Another man lived simply investing profits into ships and trade. He appeared poor at first, but soon surpassed all rivals. The secret was patience. To appear rich is easy. To be rich is slow. In the Arabian deserts, a wise merchant once said, "Wealth is like the camel. Treat it well, feed it, guide it, and it will carry you far. Abuse it, overwork it, ignore it, and it will collapse." His meaning was stewardship. Wealth is not endless. Care for it, and it will care for you. In Rome, builders explained that arches stand, strong because of keystones. Without the central stone, the whole arch falls. They compared this to wealth. A man may have many coins, but if he lacks one keystone, his fortune will fall. For some, the keystone is family. For others, knowledge. For others, discipline. Without it, fortune collapses. The wisdom was priority. Identify your keystone and protect it. In China, emperors rewarded scholars who wrote histories. One historian explained that memory is wealth. Those who forget mistakes repeat them. Those who remember grow stronger. His lesson was reflection. The man who studies his past builds a stronger future. In Africa, traders moved salt across the Sahara. Salt was heavy and dangerous to carry. Many died. One trader invested in more camels, not more salt. His caravans traveled safer and arrived richer. His secret was leverage. The tool is as important as the treasure. Again and again, the stories. A line. Wealth is built not on chance but on structure. It comes from cycles, discipline, patience, fairness, and vision. It grows when men care for it like a living thing. It endures when tied to purpose. It collapses when built only for show. In the old city of Athens, a group of young men once gathered around an elder philosopher. They asked him how to gain wealth quickly. The elder smiled and said, "Quick wealth is like quick fire. It burns bright, but dies fast. Real wealth is like the steady flame that warms the house through the night." The young men laughed, but years later, they saw the truth. Many of their friends who chased sudden riches were left with nothing, while the patient ones built lasting homes and families. The secret was endurance. This same lesson appears in modern times. Many people search for shortcuts. They look for the fastest way to become rich. They gamble on markets, chase trends, and copy what others shout about. Most of them fail. The hidden truth is that shortcuts usually cut the path to nowhere. But those who treat money like a long road always end up further ahead. A worker who saves a little each month for 10 years often passes the gambler who bets everything in one day. The wisdom of the ancients repeats itself across centuries. The Babylonians told stories of the man who saved 1 coin from every 10. It seemed too small to matter, but over time his chest grew heavy with gold. In our world, the same secret works. Every payment received should be divided. A part for living, a part for saving, a part for growth. Those who keep this discipline become rich even with small incomes. Those who ignore it remain poor even with large earnings. In Persia, kings rewarded builders of gardens because they created abundance not only for themselves, but for all. The same is true today. Those who build systems, not only products, create lasting wealth. A farmer who grows apples may earn in one season, but a farmer who plants an orchard earns for generations. The modern orchard can be a business, a skill, a network, or an investment that keeps producing while you sleep. The secret is creation. In Rome, merchants often formed partnerships. One brought ships, another brought goods, another brought knowledge of roots. Together they prospered far more than alone. In our time, the lesson is the same. Wealth multiplies through collaboration. A person with ideas joins with one who has resources and another with skill. Alone they struggle, but together they rise. Wealth is not always a solo path. Many fortunes are born from alliances. In India, wise men spoke of dharma duty. They explained that wealth gained without honor collapses. A man who cheats others may appear successful, but his fortune slips away like sand in the wind. Today, the same rule applies. Reputation is currency. The person trusted by many holds more power than the one feared by all. Opportunities flow toward trust. Deals open for the reliable. Even in a modern world, ancient Dharma whispers the truth. In China, merchants mastered cycles. They watched the seasons and tides. They knew when silk was rare and when it was common. They grew rich by timing their trade. Today the same principle exists in markets. Prices rise and fall like tides. Those who observe with patience and act with calm foresight are rewarded. Those who rush with greed are swept away. The secret is rhythm. Among the Vikings, the strongest, warriors were remembered, but the richest were the settlers. They turned victories into farms, towns, and trade posts. Their wealth endured because they built foundations, not raids. In modern times, the same wisdom says, do not chase only quick income. Build assets that stand when battles end. A business that runs without you. A property that earns while you sleep. A skill that grows in value over decades. Raiding gives coins. Building gives kingdoms. In Africa, storytellers reminded their people that wealth is not only measured by treasure, but by the stories left behind. A man may die poor in coin, but rich in wisdom passed to his children. Yet often those who preserved wisdom also preserved wealth. The secret was teaching. Every fortune that lasts must be taught to the next generation. Today this means knowledge shared with family, with friends, with communities. Money without wisdom disappears. Money with wisdom endures. The Mayans studied the stars and predicted harvests. They survived because they planned before storms arrived. In our time, the lesson is clear. Save before the crisis, not after. Invest before the boom, not when the crowd rushes in. Prepare when others sleep, and you will wake rich when others despair. The secret is foresight. Every culture whispers the same. Truth, wealth does not belong to the reckless or the lucky. It belongs to those who respect cycles, who save with discipline, who build with patience, who honor trust, who create and who plan ahead. These are the secrets no one tells you, because they are not flashy. They do not promise gold tomorrow, but they deliver gold forever. Modern minds often ignore the old voices. They believe ancient people knew little, yet when you look closely, the same rules repeat. The scribe with records of wheat is like the accountant today who tracks every dollar. The Babylonian who bought grain at harvest is like the investor who buys when markets are low. The Roman who rose early to plan is like the entrepreneur who wins mornings while rivals waste them. The African merchant who learned to control his gold is like the modern businessman who manages cash flow with care. So the question becomes not how to get rich quick, but how to get rich surely. The real secret no one tells you is that true wealth may arrive slower than you expect, but once it arrives, it stays. Fast fortunes vanish, slow fortunes endure. And yet within this truth, there is also speed. Not the speed of gambling, but the speed of compound growth. A single coin saved today doubles and doubles again, until in years it becomes a mountain. A small skill learned today multiplies into many opportunities tomorrow. A humble connection built today may open doors for decades. Compound growth is the closest thing to real quick wealth, and it begins not with chance but with one steady action. The ancients planted seeds. We must do the same. The world changes, but the soil is still soil. Plant ideas, plant savings, plant relationships, water them with discipline, protect them with purpose, Watch them grow in silence until one day you wake and realize you are rich not by accident, but by design. In the libraries of Alexandria, scholars once gathered to collect every piece of wisdom from every land. They understood that wealth was not only stored in gold or grain, but in knowledge. A single scroll could be worth more than a chest of silver, because knowledge could be copied, shared, and used again and again. When fire destroyed parts of the library, fortunes were lost not in coins but in forgotten wisdom. The lesson is timeless. True wealth begins in the mind. In our time, the same rule applies. A skill once learned can feed you forever. A language opens doors to trade in many nations. A craft makes you valuable wherever you travel. Even in a digital age, the wealthiest are those who keep learning and applying. Money is stored in banks, but fortune is stored in minds. Another secret no one tells you is that energy directs fortune. In China, wise teachers compared wealth to flowing water. Water always finds its level. It moves from careless hands to careful ones. If you waste money, it leaves you. If you respect money, it returns. The same water can destroy in floods or nurture in rivers. Wealth is no different. The way you guide it determines whether it drowns you or carries you. In the deserts, traders moved across endless sand. One caravan leader always carried more supplies than needed. His men teased him for the extra burden, but when storms came and paths grew long, his caravan survived while others perished. He earned treasure not by speed, but by preparation. The hidden lesson is clear. Those who prepare more than necessary never fear loss. In wealth, preparation is insurance. The ones who plan ahead always appear lucky, but luck is often just readiness meeting opportunity. In Greece, a philosopher asked his students, "Which man is richest?" One said the man with the most land. Another said the man with the most gold. The philosopher shook his head and said, "The richest man is the one who needs the least." When your desires are simple, wealth grows naturally. When your desires are endless, even mountains of gold are not enough. In modern words, control of desire is a form of fortune greater than gold. The Romans had a saying, "Fortune favors the bold." But boldness did not mean recklessness. It meant courage to act when prepared. A soldier who trained his body and sharpened his sword acted boldly in battle and won. A farmer who studied seasons planted boldly and prospered. A merchant who studied markets invested boldly and gained. The secret is balance. Prepare deeply, then act with courage. In India, merchants spoke of the invisible fortune. Reputation. One who carried himself with honesty was trusted everywhere. His name was worth more than coins. Even today, credit, trust, and brand are invisible fortunes that bring visible wealth. The secret is that unseen riches often create seen ones. In Africa, wise elders taught that a man who eats alone grows thin. A man who shares grows fat. The lesson was not only about food, but about networks. Wealth multiplies when shared. A man who helps others succeed creates allies who return opportunities. Selfish wealth shrinks. Shared wealth expands. In the frozen north, sailors studied stars to guide their ships. Without the stars, they drifted and perished. With the stars, they reached lands and treasures. The same is true with principles. Without guiding principles, wealth drifts and vanishes. With guiding principles, it reaches safe shores. Your stars are discipline, patience, trust, and purpose. Without them, even treasure is lost. Now the threads of all these stories weave together. From Babylon to Egypt, from India to Greece, from Africa to Rome, the secrets no one tells you are not about sudden tricks or hidden treasures. They are about foundations. Save before you spend. Build before you show. Plan before you act. Share before you demand. Learn before you leap. These rules are older than empires, yet fresher than tomorrow morning. So when you ask how to get rich, quick, understand this truth. Quick wealth without wisdom vanishes, but quick wealth with wisdom is possible. It comes from one decision repeated every day. Save one coin, learn one skill, build one connection, take one disciplined step. These steps compound, they grow silently, they appear sudden to others, but to you they are the natural harvest of patience. This is the real secret no one tells you. Riches come fast to those who prepare slowly. And remember, the greatest fortunes are not measured only in coins, but in freedom. Freedom to use your time as you wish. Freedom to care for those you love. Freedom to create without fear. Money is only a tool. The true treasure is what the tool builds. As you rest with these words, let them settle in your mind. Think of the merchant who planted orchards instead of chasing pearls. Think of the scribe who counted grain when others guessed. Think of the prince who built gardens instead of feasts. Their wealth was not magic. Their wealth was choices. The same choices lie before you every day. This is the wisdom of centuries. Wealth belongs not to the cleverest trick, but to the simplest discipline repeated faithfully. Respect your money. Guide your energy. Learn constantly. Build patiently. Share generously. Trust these rules and wealth will follow you like a shadow. And so we end this journey together. Tonight you did not just listen to stories. You walked through Babylon, you stood in Egypt, you sailed with Vikings, you studied with Greeks. You carried gold through deserts. You built orchards with wise farmers. You counted coins with scribes. Each story whispered the same truth. Wealth is not speed but direction, not chance but discipline, not greed but balance. Carry these lessons with you into tomorrow. Let them guide your choices. Let them remind you that fortune is not far away. It waits in your habits, in your patience, in your courage. These are the secrets no one tells you. Now you know them. If this journey gave you value, remember to like this video and subscribe so you never miss the next story. Together, we will unlock more wisdom, more secrets, and more paths to success. See you in the next one.